Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Dr. Joy Cry, and I'm just here to talk about alternatives to our political system, the way that we listen. Don't take it from me. Listen to RFK out of his own mouth. I know there's a lot of spam and a lot of spinning going around of contradicting and saying the exact opposite of what he's saying. I'm going to present to you why he is so amazing, and let's get into it, and why his family is making the videos against him. You'll see why, and let's just jump in, especially for those of you who do not support more war. He's your guy. Prior to him considering running for office, he did something great, and this is on the food side of things, and I'm really into healthy eating. This is partly why I'm very excited about this candidacy. And so healthy eating includes getting the glyphosate out of food. So let's just hear it from him right now. And here we go.
Hey, boys.
Yeah, Roundup is an herbicide. It's the most commonly used herbicide on Earth, and it's the active ingredient is glyphosate.
So let's back up a second. If you haven't heard him talk before, he has the phony voice. You can go to the beginning of this video. This is Flagrant Comedians, and this is one of my favorite times. Well, this is one of the times I started to really think, wow, he's great. Like this particular podcast, and I've seen him on Theo Von and others, but this one for some reason got inside. So just stand by with the voice. Don't worry about it. He explains he did the best he could with what he's got. And hey, it's kind of a thing to overcome. And he is speaking to the world with that voice. That shows a lot just right there.
It's made by Monsanto.
Oh, pause. Monsanto is owned by the Bayer Corporation, in case you didn't know that. Bayer, Bayer, your aspirin, everything like that. The pharmaceutical companies and the companies poisoning the food are the same company.
It kills everything green except plants that have been genetically altered to be Roundup resistant. And so, you have Roundup Ready corn where the seeds have been altered so that, and you can fire all the farm workers who used to wear backpack sprayers and spray the weeds when they were competing. And you saturate the entire landscape from an airplane with glyphosate, and everything green will die except for the corn.
Yeah.
So now they have Roundup Ready corn, they have Roundup Ready soy. And glyphosate is everywhere now. It's in your kids' Cheerios. It's in the wine. It's in beer. It's in everything. But what we did, we sued on behalf of home gardeners. And we had about 40,000 home gardeners who had gotten non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from Roundup. And the reason we sued on home gardeners is because home gardeners are very careful about chemical exposures. And we could not sue on behalf of farm workers because farm workers are exposed to everything, atrazine, neonicotinoids, all of this wide range of, and so you can't really, there's so many
specify which thing is actually causing the cancer. But with home gardeners, you could.
Yeah, we could isolate it, and we could say, we get them on the stand and say, did you ever use another pesticide?
Oh, no.
Never. Why did you use it? Because they had a picture on the front of it that had a guy spraying with bare feet and his shirt off. And it said, safer than aspirin, safer than anything. You can drink it,
Yeah.
And so we represented home gardeners, and we won a series. We won $289 million the first suit. An African-American groundskeeper for a school in Northern California who'd gotten it all over his body. He was getting it. He was carrying a sprayer that leaked, and he was getting these pustulating lesions. He called up Monsanto. And he said, could this be from the Roundup? And they either didn't answer the phone or they told him no.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept using it. And then they, covered his whole body and he was dying when we tried the case.
And that is the massive accomplishment. I think to reinforce what Andrew was saying is an idea of like, I think people will just kind of write you off as conspiracy theorists. I think his point is to empathize with like what you've seen in your life. We say assassinated because it's not personal for us. Your dad is murdered. Nobody really understands what.
Okay, so that's just on Monsanto, and that's before he's running for office. And doing something like that is not what any of our current or past presidents have ever done in their lives. And if there's a shred of hope that Monsanto can stop doing this, that's all I care about. Now, are there ideas in place for how he can do it in the presidency? I don't know. I don't know if a president can do all this, but what if we get enough people on board about what is going on with Monsanto and we break up the farms? We break up the big farms into small farms. Could we do a Green New Deal that's actually a Green New Deal? Because here's where I'm going to go off track, and I think I'm going to find it where RFK agrees. It's not about coal, fossil fuels, and solar. There's so much more to it, and this is why I love his VP pick, because she's talking about the soil. And I'm going to make another video about Nicole Shanahan, and her platform is amazing. And here's the thing, even if we don't win this election, we can still do great things. Like this possibility of having these people speak to this, and the networks that especially the Kennedy families have, and especially tech, Nicole's connections, that perhaps some sort of Green New Deal can happen on a grassroots level where we regenerate these lands, take the glyphosate out of it, and subsidize green farming instead of subsidizing what we're doing now. The whole thing is needing to be rebuilt. How do we do it with the least amount of harm to human life and human happiness and obviously the environment? Let's get into it. But right now we're just looking at this candidate and Monsanto, that he took them down at all is huge. People are losing their farms to Monsanto because if you use their product, their seeds, and they catch you with some DNA that because they passed, it just goes layers and layers. I want a chalkboard. I want to explain this. Patents, you can patent life. That should have never happened. That should have never become legal. So they've created seeds for these species that RFK just explained are the only things that don't die when you put on glyphosate. They're genetically modified to allow poison, and that's what you eat. The poison, glyphosate, with the genetically modified oats, flour, soy, that's in everything. And it's very hard to eat outside of that. Very hard. And I'm imagining some people can do it, but you have to have your own garden. So I paused because it's so big. So glyphosate and to eat like that, to stand up to them, most people lose everything when you stand up to them. Most people get a seed blows, or, whatever, they're seeds. They look like little fluff. They blow in the wind. They can blow for miles. It grows on your land, and you get caught having this DNA of a plant that my mom calls weeds volunteers. The volunteers belong to Monsanto. They have taken people's property and shut them down. This is like a real serious entity, and that it's not discussed in any mainstream media, as they call the legacy news. It's not discussed on the non-legacy news either. No one's talking about it anywhere. It's not being talked about on these new channels online. QAnon's not talking about it. All right, let's get back. So now we're going to look at, he talks about this on Flagrant as well, but I'm going to give you the 1-minute version that he has on RFK's personal YouTube. And for all of you who are seeing the media trying to paint him as some sort of, I don't know, opposite of your guy over there, QAnon people, He's with you on this Ukraine stuff. He is on the side that you're on. So take a listen at this.
Dwight Eisenhower, the outgoing president, gave a speech where he warned America against the emergence of a
military-industrial complex
that would turn us into an imperium abroad and a national security state at home and put the weapons manufacturers in charge of American democracy. And today, that's exactly what has happened. And, we are addicted to this pipeline of new wars that are being driven. You look who's funding both the Democratic and Republican Party. It's Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and Lockheed. And they need to put NATO in every country in Europe, because then that new country has to adopt NATO weapons purchase specifications. And it's a guaranteed market for those countries. It's all a big money laundering project, which, we need to unleash ourselves from.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
So I don't know if you got all that. So he's not into expanding NATO, and he's clearly explained it on Flagrant. It's a much longer bit on Flagrant that we were just watching about when they're a member of NATO. Like, it's a contract where you have only so many manufacturers that you can purchase weapons from. So it changes from a free capitalistic market idea where you can shop around to here are the 5 companies you're allowed to purchase from, which makes the game rigged and obviously motivates war. So if you're on that side that went down a QAnon rabbit hole, RFK's your guy. This is not like blue Democratic. The Democrats are against him. This is not a radical left. This is your guy. I'm talking to the QAnons. I'm talking to the ones who have been promised over and over and over again that your guy is going to do this or that, and it constantly fails. How many friends I have that say, I'm going to stop believing after this time. If it doesn't happen this time, whatever it is, 2 weeks of darkness, or I don't know, whatever it is, we got an eclipse coming up. Let's see what happens. RFK's your guy. I don't understand how he's getting spin, but I do understand that the military-industrial complex might be involved in giving him a smear campaign because they don't want him to stop them. So let's continue on, shall we?
On 2 occasions, they had made these very generous peace offers.
The Minsk agreements?
The first one was the Minsk Accords, and then again in April of 2022. And what he said is, we signed that agreement, and we, the major objective for Russia was at that time was making us not move NATO into Ukraine. They don't want NATO there. And that's really what this war is about. And he said, we signed the agreement. And the principal part of the agreement was that NATO would not go into Ukraine. And I was withdrawing from Kiev, which we knew. But he said, as soon as I started withdrawing troops from Kiev, they double-crossed us. And, Biden sent Boris Johnson over there to force Zelensky to tear up the peace agreement. And since then, 450,000 Ukrainian kids have died in a war that should have never happened.
Now, who's profiting from this war? If all of our...
Well, if you look at why did we want to extend NATO? So, in 1992, when the wall came down in Berlin and the Soviet Union collapsed, Gorbachev went to John Major in England and Bush in the United States and said, look, I'm going to let you do something that I'm never going to be able to go back to Russia because the Russian people are going to hate me so much. I'm going to allow you to reunify Germany, East and West Germany, under a NATO army. I'm going to move out 450,000 Russian troops. And I'm going to hand it over to you, but I want one promise from you. You will not move NATO to the east after that. You'll be satisfied with that. So 5 years later, and James Baker famously, who was the Secretary of State under Bush, famously said, promised Gorbachev, we will not move NATO 1 inch to the east. But what happened? 5 years later, the neocons came into power in the U.S. government, led by Zbigniew Brzezinski, and they published a plan saying, we're going to surround Russia with NATO. George Kennan, who's the most important diplomat, arguably, in American history, he was the architect of the containment policy during the Cold War, said, if you do that, you're going to force a violent response to Russia. Why are you treating Russia as an enemy? You should do a Marshall Plan with Russia, bring them into the community of nations. Why do you need a permanent enemy there? I'll give you, take a shortcut and tell you.
No, take as long as you want here.
One of the, when we bring a new nation into NATO, then the first part of that contract is that new nation has to conform its weapons purchases to NATO specifications, which means they have to buy their weapons from Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin.
That's clever.
And all of those companies are owned by BlackRock. And BlackRock is, the big
So they're
donor.
incentivized to expand NATO because the only way that they can increase their profits if they get more countries that have signed up.
Well, it's a whole market that they now have a trap market that they can only buy from them.
It's like Starbucks selling Frappuccinos. It's like you want Starbucks everywhere. And oh my.
All right, no Starbucks ad here. Let's talk about this. So let's talk about what is capitalism. So we have this in the United States, a war. I fell on my kneecap earlier, but it's still showing up. In the United States, we have a war of ideas, a war of blue versus red, which is so like, we're five. But in this war, they're like, one side tries to call the other side communist. So one side considers themselves capitalists. What I want to hear from these capitalists is, how do monopolies work in capitalism? Because when we set this country up, we ideally set it up to avoid monopolies. Also, did you know when we set this country up, we had an income cap that at a certain point of income, which depending on the year and the worth of money, if you made over that amount, all of that was taxed. All of that went back to the greater good. Don't think of it as a taxing in the system the way our system is now, that just is corrupt and the money doesn't get to go very far. But back in the time of our originating of the country, they used a lot of money to do a lot of things, and all good things. That was taken out in the 40s. That income cap was removed. And let's not even get into the Federal Reserve right now, okay? Let's leave that. But how does this work with capitalism? I'm just breaking this down because if BlackRock owns all the military manufacturers, if one company owns all of these companies, where is the capitalism? There is no capitalism. I'm not saying we should be any other system. I'm just saying we are not capitalists. And so when these two sides of our country are fighting over, radical left and a free market, the free market isn't free if there's monopolies. So can we just have a basic, understanding of what capitalism is before we start arguing amongst ourselves of who and who isn't capitalism? Let's add to this fact, what is socialism? Do you want to pay to get on every single road that is shared by multiple people? That's socialism. Sure, there's toll roads, and that's some form of a monopoly. So that's not capitalism. The freeways that you pay for, that's not a non-profit. Those proceeds aren't going back into the beautifying or fixing the area that those freeways completely destroyed. Are they going in and soundproofing it? Are they doing anything for the animals? That's a whole nother thing. So Can we get someone involved here that sees more clearly than either side, that's gone through red or blue and through their corporately controlled pathways? I have hope, though. There's like this new hope that maybe they won't win, and the fear that it's going to give the more radical side the win. Yeah, it's a real fear. But if we keep just having to choose between the lesser of two evils, what did Biden do? He let the pipeline go through. He let the Arctic get opened up. What has he done? Everybody's saying he's done this great stuff. What did he do? Did he stop any wars? I don't know. Maybe the other side's worse. I don't know. All I know is the middle is what I like. The middle. This is the middle. This isn't radical. RFK is not radical. Standing up to Monsanto is not radical. That's sane. That's sanity. Understanding the industrial military complex is sanity, not radicalism. He's on your side. No matter what side you're on, he's on your side. That's what I'm trying to show here. I'm trying my best. It's a newbie. I'm trying to show you. You've got this guy. He's got you. He cares about you.
All the other robber barons and America, everybody was reading those magazines. Everybody, the whole middle class was reading it. And there's a sense of indignation. And then you had one guy came along, Teddy Roosevelt, who was a member of the plutocracy. And he wasn't intimidated by him. And he got elected president and started to dismantle him. And they passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, and he broke up the Standard Oil, the biggest company in the world.
Yeah.
They passed the 40-hour work week. They let unions start to organize. They gave women the vote. They passed
Frustrating.
Corporate income tax for the first time. They passed graduated income tax for the first time. The most important bill they passed was in 1908. They passed a law that made it illegal for corporations to give to federal political candidates.
Yeah.
So that stood for 102 years.
And then Citizens United.
And then Citizens United, this very business-friendly Supreme Court in 2010 came and said that donations are free speech.
Yeah.
They're protected by the First Amendment. And you can't do anything to interfere with them. And that's the court we got today.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to fix that part of it, which is the systemic part, because it unleashed the tsunami. So I'm running against Biden and Trump, and both of them are going to have $2 billion.
So just to clarify why this is difficult, you have a situation before where these billionaires or corporations, if you will, the owners of these corporations are dictating the laws because they own the legislative branch of government. They own Congress, right? Teddy dismantles it. 102 years later, Citizens United essentially allows corporations to fund candidates. And now it's almost impossible to beat a corporately funded candidate.
Yeah.
So you're back in the same system that Teddy had to break. Real quick question about Teddy. Is that why Teddy kind of has a shaky reputation historically? Like, if they tried to smear him a little bit, like he's some weirdo that likes to go out to, hang out in the forest for months at a time.
I think he's actually, according to public polls, one of the most popular.
All right. So that's what I'm talking about. So there's a company you mentioned earlier, BlackRock. Are they going to break it up? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to break up, was it United Oil? And as they say, make this country great again. Well, there's a lot of problems. I'm not saying it was great before, but can we just focus on the difference between capitalism and monopolies, socialism, and stop using the word communism? Why do we need the word? Everybody gets so upset. What's the difference between socialism and communism? A dictator? I don't know. I don't know. Socialism is your schools. You want to cancel public schools? I'm down for that. I've always been down for that. I want to revamp them, make people learn to grow food. Like, why do we have to truck our food in? I go on and on and on about all these things. I'd like to break it down and have charts and some chalkboards because it's just a lot of information at once. But RFK is your guy. So let's take a listen again.
The DNC now has a van that follows me around that has billboards on this. I mean, you know, those moving billboards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who's more corrupt?
the DNC or the RNC?
Yeah.
I'd probably be equally corrupt, but I don't know. I don't even know how the metric by which you would measure that.
Well, okay.
But they're all, I mean, the DNC is really misbehaving. They're really trying to block people.
Yeah.
They try to block you, right?
They try to block me. They try to block Trump, and I'm not a fan of Trump's, but I want to be on a level, you know, battlefield with him. I don't want to beat him because a court threw him out. I want to beat him because I'm able to make the argument to the American people that I should be president, and I have a debate and that kind of stuff. I don't think it's good for our country. I don't think it's good for the DNC. I think this persecution that the DNC has leveled, that people see that as unfair. Americans just viscerally are saying this guy is being attacked, and they're, you know, it's moving huge numbers of voters over to him because they're pissed at what the DNC is doing.
Yeah.
It's also terrible for America, who are supposed to be the exemplary democracy around the world. This is what they do in, you know, in banana republics.
Yeah.
You don't want to run against the guy because he's popular. So you get a judge to throw him out.
Yeah.
That's a great comparison.
And, you know, it's not America.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, they're doing the same thing to me. They're trying to make sure that nobody can vote for me, rather than having President Biden come out and say, here's why I think I should be a good president.
Yeah.
And here's why I think you shouldn't be. And let's have that discussion.
Yeah.
Not just say, you know, you're not going to let me on the ballot. You're going to disenfranchise Americans.
Here's
so
where
they can't talk
the
to
Democrats kind of seem from a distance more crooked. Is the Republicans didn't seem to want Trump in 2016. They could not stop him in the primary. He just fucking destroyed everybody. It seemed like on the flip side with Hillary.
And he's got some opinions, and who cares? All right. So corruption. Hello. Can we just get somebody not corrupted for 1 second? Can anyone? What's going on? It's all so screwed up. Can we all get on board and just go RFK and just get our country back? Can we go back to like before people's hearts were broken when JFK was shot? Can we go back to that? We're going to have to finish this up here with what his family has to say. I've got it written down here on the time code on his family. Here we go. We're getting really close. Skip ahead here. And
use that to make the argument.
Okay. Your last name, Kennedy. One of like the American dynasties. I feel like most Americans, maybe most people around the world, very familiar with it. What are the benefits, and what are also like, not what are the benefits, what are the rules of being a Kennedy? Are there rules? Is there like a culture that you all have to live by?
That's a great.
Is there a way to behave? Like what is the?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all raised in a milieu where, you know, we have expectations of each other, that you're gonna, you know, try to do something good for other people, you know. And you know, many of my cousins, there were 29 cousins, 29 grandchildren of Joe Rose Kennedy. And most of us were raised during the Camelot era. And, I think that really sort of dictated a lot of our worldview and our lives. We all I think, were raised with this attitude that our lives would be consumed by some great controversy and that it would be a big privilege for us to be able to play a role, an efficacious role in that. Of course, everybody's lives diverge, and I've got members of my family now who do not like the fact that I'm running against President Biden. I have 5 members of my family who work for the administration or closely with the administration. And, President Biden has a bust of my father behind him in the Oval Office. He's been a long-term friend of my family's. So there are people in my family who are not excited about that. But, I think generally we all, we were raised arguing with each other. My father would come home in the evenings from the Justice Department and he would set up debates at the dinner table and we would have to argue a point. My grandfather did that to his 9 children. And that, we argue with each other without sort of hating the person, which I think is a good thing for the country to be able to do.
One thing I really admire, I'm even listening to you talk. I don't agree with everything you say, but you surround yourself with people who don't agree with that. Cheryl will publicly say she disagrees with you about X, Y, and Z. You say on this pod, my kids think I'm a kook sometimes. I really think that is a thing that is missing from the spirit of America right now. And I think it's very cool that you are so open to people disagreeing with you.
I mean, I argued with my son on Ukraine. From the beginning, and he pushed back on me, and then, he put his money where his mouth was and went over there and joined the Foreign Legion, and he fought in the Kharkiv offensive, and, I'm lucky that he came back alive, but, I raised the kids, and my grandfather raised his kids. And in fact, my grandfather sent his kids over to London School of Economics to study under a guy called Harold Lasky, who was regarded as the greatest socialist philosopher at the time. And my grandfather hated him and hated socialism, but he wanted his children to be exposed to different ways of thinking and to be able to do critical thinking themselves. And, that
thinking. That's what we're talking about here. Critical thinking and all these different things aren't doing it, aren't critical thinking, all these people talking about the radical this and the radical that aren't critically thinking at all. So, hey, can we get there? Can we get there? Is there more?
And this is what I said. Democrats, prior to the Affordable Care Act, prior to the battle of the Affordable Care Act, were reluctant to take pharmaceutical money. And so Republicans were getting more money than them. And after the Affordable Care Act, or during that battle, it became permissible suddenly for Democrats to take pharmaceutical money because the Obama administration made a deal with the pharmaceutical industry to support the bill. So today, I believe they're wrong. Today, I believe the Democrats are getting more money from pharma than Republicans, which is what I said.
Even if that's not exactly the case, the spirit of the answer is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And Obamacare, I remember that fight very well.
Yeah.
And the first thing they had to do was appease the pharmaceutical.
Exactly.
And that was number one. Job one to get
it. It's the only way they could get it passed.
Yes, and that is something I've always been a huge critic of.
And they made the deal with them that there would be no bargaining over drug prices. That was the deal.
Okay.
What's my next? What's my next?
No, you know what? Fuck them.
Yeah, so at least they're talking about it. This is what is so exciting, is that this is being talked about. Pharmaceutical money is being talked about. They can't talk about pharmaceutical money on news programs that have television ads because over half the television ads are pharmaceutical. And we're one of the only countries in the world that allows drugs to be marketed. And we, obviously, anybody with a brain can see how ridiculous it is that we market all these drugs and we have a war on drugs and demonize and lock people up for drugs. It's all insane. As long as you get the prescription, it's fine. It's fine. Just give me some drugs. I got a headache. So yeah, the cool thing is they're talking about it. I'm involved because I'm excited that they're talking about it. It's like, okay, I live in a world where I try to be goalless. I try to accept the world as it is while still trying to change it. But I can't change the world by being so upset about the world. So I usually just do nothing because I'm stuck being upset. But now there's this like hope because prominent people are getting a platform, getting millions of views, talking about things that normally are not talked about. And if you think you're down some rabbit hole and you say these words to people, do your research, you're not getting real information. Because are you thinking about this stuff? Do your research. How can you do your research if the things we're talking about aren't being talked about? Where are you going to research it? We're going to do another video that breaks down videos on how to know when you're being brainwashed. If your video starts with, we don't want to tell you what to think. We want you to think for yourself. We're just going to lay it out in a video with music and pictures. And we're not brainwashing you at all. We're just helping you do research. No, it's not how it works. Or is it?
People voted for Donald Trump. It doesn't make them bad people. That, I think, is a fundamental problem in our country. People think if you like Trump, or a lot of people don't like him and they still vote for him because they think he's less crazy than the woke. That to me is the essence of our politics. Trump can win because people think he, that madman, is less crazy than woke shit. And I get it. I totally get it. That's your freedom of speech thing. People don't like losing that. People don't like walking on eggshells, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm against the cancel culture. I think we need to talk to each other. We need to talk to people with whom we disagree. And we need to be able to learn the skill of talking gently and respectfully to each other. Say what you mean, but don't say it mean.
And accepting that people are different. They were raised different. They think different than you. They live in a different part of the country. Like, stop being in there, your little silos. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, your problem actually is the reverse. A lot of your natural constituency now is actually in the Republican Party.
That's good.
Yeah. Our independents. My biggest group, my biggest cohort is independents, and then I have a lot of Republicans. I've always felt comfortable talking. I mean, listen, I started my environmental career representing commercial fishermen and recreational fishermen, and built Waterkeeper Alliance, which organized in those communities all over the country. A lot of the people that I was representing were former Marines who started the Riverkeeper organization, and a lot of them are Republicans. And
well, that's news for me. I didn't know that he had a lot of Republicans because everybody's telling me that this isn't good if you are not a Republican, that this situation, that a third party like Nader can spin things. And so if he is getting some Republicans, that's excellent news. I don't know when that was from. I'm trying to turn my filters down. It's not working. There we go. Filters off. Filters on. Baby amount. Okay, so we'll be back. So we're going to go back to talking about BlackRock. And this is with Theo Vaughn. The Bill Maher one is not as, it's just a little dark, like the lighting. And, you get to know the side of RFK that's more human and not, all of these, he seems so human. Again, he's your candidate. There is no, it doesn't matter what color you fly your flag. It doesn't matter It doesn't matter who you voted for in the past. This is your guy. This is the only candidate who is talking about real issues. You will not hear any of this from either candidate. That we think we have this two-choice system. Neither one of them are spending hours and hours talking. I'm trying to break down and find these moments out of hours and hours of material. You don't have that with the other ones. You don't. Obviously, the current president only speaks once in a while at a thingy, and then the other guy goes on these tours and just says blah, blah, blah. He's not talking about anything real, and there's no historical information. There's no information on how the system works. It's just he's great and he's going to do great things. That's about it. It's like the energy of it. It's like, oh, I feel energized. I went to this workshop and I came out like, yeah, we're all in this together. We're in a stadium and we're like, yeah. Did you learn anything? Did any information like teach, like, did you, oh, that's how that works? Oh, that's how he's going to solve that problem? Oh, did any of that happen? This is your guy. This is your guy. All right, here we go. This is a very nice, well-lit place. Is it place? Well-lit segment? What do I want to call this? Here we go.
What they're doing that, yeah, a president can deal with it. For example, they own all the packing companies. So there's only 4 meat packing companies. And those companies have a stranglehold on farmers and consumers. And they should have been prosecuted a long time ago for antitrust. But because BlackRock is so powerful, nobody will touch them.
Wow.
And so
that's a dark arts, huh?
Yeah. I mean, they're just, what they're doing is they're just strip mining the wealth and equity from the American middle class.
Yeah.
And you see that,
Yeah, it's sad. And who is it? Who is BlackRock?
The head of it is the CEO is a guy called Larry Fink. He's also on the board of directors of the World Economic Forum. So in the World Economic Forum, meets in Davos. It's a billionaires boys club. They meet in Davos. They meet in Davos every year, and they try to figure out what their plans are for the rest of humanity.
Are they greedy?
I would say they have a bad reputation for very self-serving policies. Their big policy is called the Great Reset. And what here's Klaus Schwab says famously, he says, under the Great Reset, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. So that's what
they believe.
Yeah,
so they do have a belief. Their belief is that you will own nothing, but you'll be happy.
All of us will own nothing, but they will, because they will own everything. And they may be a little happier. Who knows?
Wow. Today's episode is brought.
So he's speaking truth to power. And how long does he have to live? I don't know. He has to pay for his own security detail. That's they're not providing it to him the way they provided it to other candidates. The DNC is doing everything they can to stop him. He would have liked to have gone and not been a third party and run for the DNC and had a proper, primary, a proper thing. They didn't let him, just the same way they didn't let Bernie run against Hillary. So the only way is to get outside of these political parties. But he's your guy. So whatever spin that you've been getting from whatever channels you're listening to, and I know a few people who need to see this, because you think what you're hearing through the videos that you're getting, to start off by saying, we're not going to tell you what to think. You think you're getting real information. You're not. That's the industrial military complex using complex, deep, subliminal, hypnotic. I mean, all media is hypnotic and it can create that's why advertising works. This is basic stuff. Why do they spend billions of dollars on ads? Because it works. All right, have we had enough today? Is this a little bit much? This is something I've been trying. I promised myself I'm getting involved. I've been promising myself that for decades. The only way I got involved in 2016 was like making fun of Hillary Clinton because I thought it was really funny that she was running on this platform. To me, her platform was, we're going to have a woman in the presidency. I never heard her say why she's a great candidate and how come she's better than her other competitors. Just that she was lifting the glass ceiling for women. And I just thought of it like, what glass ceiling are you lifting? You're here because you were married to the president. That's not as inspiring. I mean, it's something, but it was really annoying. Like, you needed that man to get to where you were. So how much are you uplifting us? You're telling us to go marry a man who has the job you want? That's the kind of jokes I was doing in 2016. I didn't like who won the election, and I stopped doing comedy because I felt responsible, making fun of her, saying she's a feminist when she was wearing heels. And somebody's like, they were short heels. I'm like, I want to see her in tennis shoes. That's a feminist. So I played a little and I lost. Am I going to do it again? Probably. Am I going to be mad? Probably. Am I always mad? Yeah. I drive on freeways and I think, what was here before? Now this freeway is 25 lanes. Where'd the earth go? Well, I am enjoying the color of the light, so maybe I'll keep talking. I didn't do this. This is the almighty. This is life itself. This is not me. This is the colors change. It doesn't look very exciting out my windows, but I love this golden color. I could almost take my filter all the way off. Let's see. How do I feel now? Yay, light! The filters do just the same thing as the light. All right, enough about me. Back to politicking. RFK's your guy. I don't care what side you're on. I know my full-on lefty, just do what they tell you. They think he's not good. I don't. Wow. I need like Sam Kinison to just start screaming right now. Like, wow. So are these comedians that are interviewing him, are they supporting him? Are they, is Theo Vaughn, Bill Maher? Let's forget about Rogan. Rogan thinks he's so smart. I've been listening to some of his clips and I'm like, dude, back in the day, because I don't have Spotify, back before Spotify, he was awesome. He was telling everybody that they should have a podcast. It was beautiful. He was like, the quality of conversations improves when you record it. Me and my partner, we've been recording our conversations for a decade. He will not let me release them unless he dies. And he's alive. But it is amazing. I was there in the room where my radio was playing Joe Rogan. Oh yeah, I'm older. Radio. Where my thing was playing Joe Rogan before he moved to Spotify. And he was talking to Russell Brand and he was telling Russell Brand, you need a podcast. Anyway, my point about Joe Rogan is now he acts like he knows shit. Back then he was like, I'm just a dumb guy. And he would like take in information and stuff. Now he's on his little thing like, this is how it should be and blah, blah, blah. And as I say this, I realize I am doing that. But I am also an idiot. So, I mean, I get it. You get into the knowing and the knower. But I think that he's not taking responsibility for the influence and power that he has. And that if he's not a genius, and he used to admit that. I might be a genius, and I do admit that. So there's a difference. My genius is staying at home, hiding, not going outside, and not talking to people because it's too painful, because I see too much. Yeah. No, I'm possibly a genius, but I'm not that smart because I haven't done much with my life. So I can't really say that I'm not great because I've done nothing other tthan think about doing things, which is what I'm doing now. And now I'm babbling, which I didn't want to talk about me. Stop it. All right, we're at 50 minutes. It's a good time to stop. We're going to call it 50 minutes. I'm going to bring you more. I'm going to bring you Nicole Shanahan. next. And after that, we're going to go into Charles Eisenstein, who is also on the team and is a great speaker, thinker, philosopher. And if you don't know who he is, just wait till the next episode. And we will be exploring all the exciting things of hope. Is this hope that they're even talking about it? They may not win, but it's just so amazing that it's happening, that it's that there's these human beings are doing what they're doing. And I loved Andrew Yang and I love Marianne Williamson, but these ones are like legit in the money, in the possibility. Thanks for watching.